Hello everyone. In today's video, I'm going to share a few tips with you on how to get your Raspberry Pi ready for artificial intelligence or any Python related task. I'm using a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus and the latest version of the Raspberry Pi OS, Bookworm 64-bit. One thing that's very important is the virtual environment. The virtual environment is basically this kind of repository in which you can do everything Python related. So you're going to have a different Python from your system Python, allowing you to do whatever you need to do without interfering or messing up what's your system Python. One thing that's good to have is this thing called PyAmp. So I'll put a link to this page in the description. So this shows you how to install PyAmp. What it does, it allows you to have different versions of Python on your device, which can be useful depending on what you're working on. For example, you have this GitHub page where you have an image classification example, but this will work with Python 3.9 because you can see here it's a little old. So if you try to run it with Python 3 point, something that's higher than 3.9, it's not going to work. But maybe you want to try this, and the only option for you, for example, if I do Python, you'll see that I'm at 3.11. That's a basic Python that I have with my Raspberry Pi. But since I already installed PyAmp, using that, I can create a directory. Let's call it demo. And using the PyAmp, I'm going to assign Python 3.9 to this demo repository. So I'm just going to use the command pyamp local to say I'm in this repository 3.9.10, and if I do Python version, now I have Python 3.9.10. So everything that's going to happen inside this repository is going to use the Python 3.9.10, not my uh, 3.11.2. But this is not the virtual environment typically. It's just like I'm assigning a version of specific version of Python to this repository. Now to create the virtual environment, you just do Python m vm, you put the name, let's call it test. And one argument that's really important is this one, system site packages. What this thing does is copy all the packages that are here in your system, in your real system Python, and put them directly in the virtual environment that you're going to create. And this is useful. For example, let's say that you have something like Picamera, the Picamera module or package, which is specific to Raspberry Pi. And you have to know that the pip command is something that's global to any Python application. But when you have things like Picamera, which is very specific to the Raspberry Pi, it may or may not work with pip, depending on whether the team of Raspberry Pi integrated that to the pip command or not. So by using this argument, it allows you to have the majority of the Raspberry Pi packages that you need. And since I was talking about Picamera, let's say you have like this image classification example and you want to run it, and you have a Picamera instead of a USB camera. Um, you have to note that the Picamera on the Bookworm is depreciated. Now it's Picamera 2. So if you we have created our virtual environment. Let me activate that. So test bin activate. And if I do Python import Picamera2, I'll have an error. That's because even though I use this to copy most of all my packages that are in the system, the fact that I have a 3.11, a lot of these packages won't be compatible with a Python 3.9. And this is not going to throw me an error or anything. It's not even going to tell me this or that package. I won't have any error, any warning. But you have to get in mind that it's not, it will copy only things that are compatible with your virtual environment. I'm going to create another virtual environment, but this time the virtual environment is going to be the same version as my system Python. So now let's run this and see if we have Picamera or not. And as you can see, we don't have Picamera despite this being the same, uh, exactly the same version as my system Python, because I didn't use the system side packages argument when I created the virtual environment. And obviously, if you have any code that uses the Picamera2, it's not going to work. You can try to install that with pip. It's gonna be messy. It's probably not even gonna work. So the simplest, the easiest way to do that is to create the virtual environment using this argument. When you create a virtual environment, you can use the same syntax without erasing the previous one because it's the same name. So what's going to happen is this is going to be overwritten. But if you want, you can suppress that and recreate another virtual environment. And if the command returns without any error, it means that everything is fine. So this is it for today's video. Just these few tips using the system side packages and having PyEnv to have different versions of Python on your device.